we wanted to, so our app is quite large because of that, but we wanted to be sure, because one of the clinical trials that we did them in Africa where, I mean, they have internet access, but they have internet access maybe at home or at the hotel. Cellular is, it's existent, but it's not, it's maybe 2G speeds, 3G speeds, it's not enough to send big video files.
Like AT&T.
Right, yeah. So what we wanted to make sure we could do is we wanted to make sure that we could render everything locally on the device, and then once that person has internet data, then they can send it over to the clinician or whoever it needs to be sent to, or you keep it on your phone and you're able to monitor it. If you're in a triage center, let's say in the military, and you have no access to any cellular networks, no access to internet. I hope the military has Starlink or something, but let's say you don't. We want that to be able to still be usable, and the doctor can look at it on the phone or provide medical advice based on that data that they have.
Is that a great card? I mean, is that just a photographic white balance indicator on the sticker?
Yeah. So So one
There's
of the
no IP associated with. Like,
well, we have a patent pending on the actual color calibration that we do. I don't know exactly how to answer without disclosing more than I can. But we have an actual, we have a patent pending on our actual color calibration method. But this is, like you said, it's more of a grayscale color calibration. All we're trying to do is kind of make sure that whether you're in a dark environment, a light environment, as long as there is light, you're able to, kind of get an accurate color.
I had a question about the FDA approval. What one would you want to give it if you weren't legally required to disclaim things, right? Like, I assume anyone you can help would be better than zero, right?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Are you holding back, like you told her, we're not ready yet, we need 6 more months? Like, in a similar situation, we don't want to get full clearance. We want to be able to give the guidance or advice that's more soft, not entertainment.
Trillions and trillions of data.
Well, but that's the whole
point you're
metric,
making, right? You're saying it's something better than nothing, right?
Yeah, right. Like, are there such ways to go forward? Like, is that?
For now, you're saying until we get approval, or are you asking, like, if there was no approval needed, what would we be doing?
I'm asking a little bit about you,
Okay.
a little bit about me.
Sure.
Because I don't want to go through FDA approval for something as well.
Right.
So I'm wondering what, like, soft back-offs there are to, you could say, like, here's some advice, but I'm not a doctor, like, what disclaimers might you do in the same situation?
So, I'd say that it's difficult because, let's say we lived in a world where we don't need the FDA, and everyone could give medical advice and everyone could take that with a grain of salt. We could be doing a lot more than what we're doing now. We have the technology available to ship out, but we're being held back really heavily by just the fear of getting sued, the fear of being in trouble. We have, not only do we have the technology, but we have the clinical data to prove that we are viable, and that technology is proven. It's not just,
What's the clinical risk, right? You're taking a picture, but that piece of paper, right? If that's going to be removed, is that really this thing you're trying to look at?
So that's honestly the biggest reason why we're a medical device is just that sticker, because we had to get that sticker approved because it's actually going on the body.
But that's what you're trying to prove in the clinical trials, that that's not going to cause harm.
Not only that, it's that if we give medical advice, for example, let's say we tell you clean the wound in this location. FDA, I'm sorry guys, but it's a pain in the ass. If I tell you guys, if I tell you, okay, you need to clean the wound in this location. Yeah, we are all adults and we know that, okay, you're going to put some hydrogen peroxide in the wound. Nothing is going to happen. We know hydrogen peroxide is safe. It's
Sorry, I
going to
didn't
clean
pick
it.
up that you were giving advice as well.
Yeah.
I thought you were just doing measurements and giving it to a clinician, and the clinician then will take that on board and decide what the treatment is.
So we're hoping to get to the point where we can give advice as well.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So because that access of care is not always available. There are 88,000 amputations done every single year in the US because of loss of access of care because of diabetic ulcers. 88,000 in the US. All because of, I'm sorry to say it, sometimes the patients are too lazy to go to the hospital and just don't care, or the patient doesn't have access to get to the hospital, the patient doesn't have the money to get to the hospital, they live in a place where there isn't diabetic care. It's unacceptable in the age that we have kind of in technology that wounds are kind of left to the side when the average patient spends $20,000 on wound care. And obviously that money isn't coming out of the patient's pocket directly because of insurance typically, but it's coming out of the US healthcare's pocket, you know?
So you went through clinical trial in Europe, right?
Yep.
You're in hospital, so what did that look like? How many sites? Is it how many patients roughly, or how big of a trial was it?
Yeah, so we had, so actually when we first started, we started on horses. And it actually ended up helping us a lot because a lot of other companies who do medical imaging really don't have the data set for darker skin. But because our horses had darker skin, we actually do really good with black skin. So when we started with veterinary care, then we moved on to working with a hospital group in Belgium. And that hospital group, we ended up using, I believe, about 7,500 patients is what we saw, but we saw them continuously, so we ended up collecting about over 100,000 photos of the wounds over time. From that, we were able to kind of not only build our database, but kind of build our clinical efficiency. Of course, we were measuring manually and measuring with the scanner, and we found that our measurements with the phones were about 15% more accurate than the person measuring manually, and we save a lot of money because if you can imagine the man hours it takes for a nurse to come take off a bandage, measure the wound with a literal ruler. I mean, come on, what are we doing? It's 2025.
My wife is a nurse and she draws
A line, yeah, you gotta do a circle.
over the kids.
Oh yeah.
To make sure the
Yeah.
infection.
You gotta measure it, you gotta throw it away, you know, people don't realize the cost associated with the resources. I mean, you have to throw away gloves, you have to throw away the nurse has to go to the home or the person has to go to the hospital. There's a lot of cost associated with it that isn't really seen, but it's draining billions of dollars from the healthcare system. It's really a big cost. Wound care is a big cost, and there's not enough innovation in the field.
Is there any competitors?
There is one big competitor. It's an Israeli company called eCare, but they are, I mean, of course I'm going to say this, but they're nowhere near where we are. They started actually before us, but they aren't, no one else has volumetric data, which is big. No one else can recreate the wound in 3D, which when I show you guys how it looks, you guys are kind of going to get an understanding of why that's so important. If I were to take if me and 10 other nurses were to take a picture of a wound, you notice that each and every single picture looks different. The wound might look smaller in one picture, one wound might look bigger in one picture, not because the wound has changed in size, but because the nurse is taking it from farther away angle, from this angle, close, it's different. It's always different. And so when we're able to actually recreate the wound in 3D, you end up being able to really see what's happening in that wound. And when you have that metric of sizing over time from day 0 to heal, hopefully, you get to actually track. You get to track that, and you get to tell the patient, you know, congrats, you know, your wound has healed 15%. You're on a great track. Keep it up. While, you know, other people might say, okay, your wound looks the same when it's grown by 10%. You just never know. There's not a continuance of care.
Have you thought about what your mode will be when someone makes a prompt, throws stuff into GPT, it does it for a quarter, and they're not held back by FDA?
So, we're lucky to where we're not a very vibe codable product.
Not yet. I
Not
mean,
sure.
it's imaging, right?
100%. I agree with you, and that's the kind of criticism that we like to hear, because there's no such thing as an AI company that will never exist. There's no such thing as a company that will never come and take over your company. But our real value isn't our product; it's the data set that we have. There was no data set before us. It didn't exist.
Just don't let them crawl it.
Right. Well, yeah, we're not licensing that, but we had to build that from scratch. Our algorithm was built from scratch. Our data set was built from scratch, and so that's why I like to say we're not live codable. As of now, knock on wood. That's not wood, but whatever.
How do
No
you
one has it.
retroactively do it, right? So if you have to take a picture with the grayscale thing, right? Like, so how do you go and look at other images in the past that don't have that, or is that you can't do it?
So when we actually first started, and I'll show you guys also when I'm showing you guys kind of a demo, our iterations. That's our 6th generation of the sticker. And by the way, every generation has to be approved by the FDA. Costs us a lot of money. So that's our 6th generation, and we started with a very big, bulky thing that we print from a printer for testing. And we, in the very beginning, tried to do it without it. And I'll say maybe the latest and greatest iPhone 16 Pro Max that has LiDAR can do it, sure. But the iPhone 3s, the Android Pixel 6, whatever it might be, won't be able to do it. We wanted to prioritize accessibility rather than just being high tech, because first we're going into a market that has elderly people as of now that probably don't have the newest greatest phones, and we want to be in the markets in Africa and the Middle East, Asian markets that do not have the newest and greatest phones, which is why we've stressed so heavily on being able to be used on something as old as an iPhone 3. I mean, if you could download an app on a BlackBerry, I bet you it would work. But we never tested it.
What are the challenges with using a sticker on a wound?
Really the biggest challenge is positioning. If it's in a more curvy area, it can be a little bit more challenging, but on the corners of the sticker, we have these little, I know you guys can't probably, I'll pass them around, but you guys, there's some little markers here and there, and then there's these little boxes that the camera is able to kind of make spatial, it's kind of able to do spatial imaging, so it's able to actually get that depth information through that, so it's actually able to get that curvature, so it gets, it can create correction back. Yeah, exactly.
Like how would it work now on the nose, if you could take laceration into your nose?
So because of the size of the marker, we probably wouldn't recommend you using it on the nose. Something that's not as big as a foot, a leg. Yeah.
I know, yeah, but I suppose all depends how big your nose is, right?
Yeah.
Why can't you just put it next to?
Again, you want it to be
Just the
on the
depth of the
same,
data.
yeah, you want it to be on the same surface as the wound, just so that it can get that depth information. Yeah.
Is it also relevant for getting the
Supermodels
correct lighting,
wouldn't use
because
them.
it doesn't cast a shadow?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So we hope, from our understanding and our data that we've collected, as long as the color calibration is there in the picture, it can usually calibrate for any shadow, regardless of what, I guess, dimension the shadow is casted or what dimension the wound is in. But yeah.
What about a traumatic wound with heavy hemorrhaging?
Yeah.
Gunshot.
Okay.
Car accident, things like that. How does it perform in those circumstances?
So, in something like, something like a shark attack or something like that, something where, you have an amputated limb, we're obviously not the first thing you want to do is take a scan.
Sorry,
but your
Hold
question is
still
valid.
for 40 seconds.
But your question is valid in the point to where it's more of after for example, if you've lost a limb, they're going to graft the skin and try to close up the wound.
Let's just get, gunshot wound.
Gunshot wound.
Okay.
Gunshot wound we work very
You're
well
in
with.
the ambulance, they're heading to the hospital, the doctors want to know how to prepare.
Absolutely.
Who they need to call, what OR they're gonna go in.
Yep.
But it's heavily hemorrhaging right now, you're applying pressure to stop bleeding.
I don't think they
How
use
do
it
you-
in that scenario.
I'm asking, how does it handle that?
So we're not able to take the skin while it's actively hemorrhaging. We're more of the healing process of the wound. Now, while the gunshot wound is healing, absolutely you can take the scan and watch the healing progress. But while the wound is actively hemorrhaging, in fact, we stress that you should not be using our product. Yeah.
So you must have a lot of data on how many lives or how many wounds have been healed. What is that data? Because I bet you can catch it and see if whatever antibiotics or treatment they're using is not effective, then the doctors are able to change it and then get a right regimen to heal the wound.
So that's something that we're actually very interested in starting here in the US. In Europe, and I'll say it this way, European healthcare and US healthcare are the polar opposites. European healthcare is fully funded by governments, or almost fully funded by governments, while US healthcare is almost completely privatized, insurance-based, and so we're really interested in kind of becoming that data set for insurance companies to show them, okay, here is quantifiable data that this works, this person needs this person doesn't. We don't want to be the people who are denying care, because people are getting denied care when they need it, but we think that we're going to be the people who are able to show, okay, this person really does need care. Insurance companies love data, they love it, and they live, breathe, and eat data. That's all they care about. They do not care about the human being, they care about data. Is this person really needed? How is it going to affect our bottom line?
So are you tracking it now, or are you telling us that you're not tracking that?
So we're not actively tracking how our product is affected with other companies, because we can't. We have to be partnered with these companies. Otherwise, we're either giving these guys free advertising or we're giving them negative advertising. Either way, we're in trouble. Yeah, go ahead.
So what is the business model? How do you guys make money?
So we're fully currently B2B. So we sell directly to hospital systems. We sell directly to triage centers, to long-term healthcare centers, nursing centers, nursing homes, whatever it might be. And they act sort of as a distributor for our products, but they distribute to their patients. So they can decide their pricing model to them. We have actually priced our product per scan, not per. So we actually provide the sheets, the color calibration for free. We don't charge a penny for them, as long as we've signed a contract with our distributors. We will provide as many of these as you need, and because they cost us close to nothing. And
After the FDA approval.
Please don't remind me how much we spend.
Yeah. They got a cost association.
Yeah, but they cost us close to nothing to print and not to develop. But so we actually charge per scan. So that really helps the smaller centers, which is the bulk of our volume, because again, it's scattered care. There's different telehealth companies doing at-home wound care, different ASCs doing wound care, there's different hospital systems doing wound care. So we charge at the very high end. If you're, for example, let's say buying 1,000 scans at the beginning, we'll charge you $1 a scan, which is quite cheap here in the US. And we might rework that model in the US to be a little bit more expensive, but that's just what's worked really well for us in Europe. And we're already profitable in Europe.
What's the largest wound you can scan? Like if it's a burn that's...
So the largest that we've successfully measured, I'll give you two examples. The largest we've successfully measured was one that was pretty much an entire chest wound. The largest that we are kind of approved to measure. No one tells us we cannot measure something that big, but we don't wanna do it until we have more data sets.
Gotcha.
Because we don't wanna give wrong measurements. The largest that we do is about the entire thigh.
Okay.
Yeah. So typically, as long as it can fit in your phone camera and you can still clearly see the color calibration marker, we can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you're doing volumetric, but would you go to her company where you look at like subdermal, bruising, that type of thing as well?
Yeah, so, next, kind of
To
more.
help each
Right,
other.
let's
Yeah.
partner.
So more of our kind of 5-year plan, something that we're actually developing in kind of the background, is a diode. And this diode is able to kind of measure blood flow similar to how you
Okay.
talked about photonics.
Yeah.
We want to be able, this diode, also philosophy of our company is we wanna be cheap. Stupid philosophy, right? But we really wanna be cheap because we want to have as much of the market as possible, because it's a very easy to conquer market.
Yeah.
To be frank. Our diode is going to cost the hospital systems $10. It plugs into the phone, and all you have to do is kind of scan over it with diode, and it's going to show blood flow.
Wow.
And in that blood flow, from the blood flow charts, we're gonna be able to see the rate of infection in those different areas, and we can actually suggest where to clean it more. Again, more FDA approval, but we can suggest where to do more cleaning. We can do predictive analysis on how long it's going to take for the wound to heal, if the wound is healing correctly. Something I forgot to mention is from our images, we're actually able to show what stage the tissue is in. So for example, if it's in necrosis, we're able to actually identify that from the image itself.
Wow.
Are you pushing this information into the EHR or?
Yeah, so in Europe and in the US, it's quite different how HR systems work. In Europe, there's pretty much one that rules them all, and there's one hospital that uses Epic. So we're quite new into expanding the US market now. So actually, I just had a meeting today with a company who's going to be helping us integrate into all the EHRs. The Epic, Cerner, Athena, the big 5 or the big 3, I guess, plus a couple other ones. But yeah, if we don't integrate into EHRs here in the US, we end up not being able to talk to the Houston Methodists, to the HSCs,
Yeah.
to the big hospital systems, the Baylors of the medical world, because we end up disrupting the clinical workflow more than we end up helping the clinical workflow.
By the way, I was the one supposed to be
I
asking
know.
questions, so thank you guys,
Sorry.
it's been great. I was curious about the diode thing. Can you elaborate more on that? I'm like an electronics guy.
Yeah, I'm honestly not an electronics guy,
Okay.
and I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not as privy as what information I can give on
Gotcha.
I know we've talked about it, so I can talk about it, but I don't know what stage we are to what information we're releasing publicly right
Gotcha.
now.
Okay. That
There's
makes
so
me-
many applications with what you have, right?
Yeah.
Structuring your clinical trial is gonna be tough, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
the more complex you make it, the harder it could be to get approval, right? And you're trying
Yes.
to get that balance in applicants.
Yes and no. I think that the more we develop a relationship with the FDA, the easier it's been to work with them. And I'm not taking any political stance here. As soon as they started firing people from the FDA, we lost our main point person at the FDA, so we're rebuilding that. They did a lot of layoffs in the federal government, so now we're rebuilding our connections with the FDA. It seems like the medtech devices that are, Johnson & Johnson, can get FDA approval within a month, whereas we get approval within a year, but that's because they have connections. And so the more you kind of build with them, the more they understand that you're a company that is following the book. You just kind of have to really build a professional rapport with them at first. Otherwise, it's kind of like you're in school. Are you the troublemaker, or are you the smart aleck?
Yeah, but you still have to go through the whole finding patients, recruiting, getting the data, making sure it's clean.
And it costs
you
a
know.
lot of money.
Yeah.
And so funding is a big issue.
How does it work with burns?
Yeah, burns actually works really well with burn patients. So we actually did a clinical trial specifically with in the ER in a European hospital, and we only did scans on burn patients. So burns are kind of classified differently because they typically don't have an open lesion. They usually scar over. So we had to kind of rework our model. We kind of had to rework the algorithm and what it was looking for, because typically we were looking for open lesions or healing lesions. So we were able to rework it, and we actually work very well with burns, and we do advertise for burn patients as well now.
I wanted to ask more about the use cases. You talked about people with diabetes who have lesions, right? Military, people who maybe are more rural areas and don't have access to Wi-Fi. That's one of the things I was interested in. Are there more of those kind of use cases that we might not think of, but you guys are really thinking about targeting?
Yeah, so I think you hit on our biggest ones. We also have bed sores patients a lot, just older patients that unfortunately do not move, and so they end up having bed sores on body parts that are uncomfortable to scan. And it brings up actually a good segue into another issue that we've actually run into that I like to talk about, and something that we're actively trying to solve is, what about how is someone supposed to take a picture on their back? How is someone supposed to take a picture on their, under their thigh, or in a private area that they don't want to send pictures of? But these kind of discussions end up being, these kind of complex cases typically have a care provider that goes to their house to take these pictures, whereas we're not able to kind of facilitate that. We're also kind of looking at new different ways to solve it. But I think our biggest use cases, like you said, military in the field, diabetic ulcers, 100% is our biggest market, especially in the US, where obesity and overweight is common. And so those are definitely the two biggest markets that we're targeting. But I think that, as we go on, the markets keep kind of opening up to us. The most interesting is we've actually started kind of looking at, we're starting to look at how we can adapt this into other markets, kind of how, I don't know if you guys know about Invisalign in the dentistry market. It used to be you had to go into the dentist every week to go get a new scan of your teeth, and they'd send you out a new shipment. Now you take a picture with your phone smiling, and they bill you that as a visit and send you Invisalign because your phone camera can do that. Veterinary care is another, since we started with horses, we already have the data set for it, so we're looking into the veterinary care. But our main goal right now is really to expand. We have the product ready, we're just looking to expand into different hospitals systems, into different care clinics, start some clinical trials here in the US. European market, we have a pretty good base. US market, been chipping away at it for the last two and a half, maybe 3 weeks. So we've kind of been going at it as fast as we can. I've had some meetings with the Houston, the TMC, Texas Medical Center in Houston. We were at the Washington DC talking to some NGOs, talking to some policymakers there, but none of the NGOs want to do anything right now. They're a little bit scared about their own funding, and so, yeah.
The device itself, is it a device that you're supplying, or is it their application?
Great
Because
question.
the reason I ask that is because I just put in ChatGPT like a couple weeks ago my son's wound. He's a football player.
Sure.
And he skidded on the turf, and I mean, he had a huge wound, and it was starting to get infected, and I didn't even know that turf has the possibility of tetanus. So, but I didn't even know that when I put it in AI, it was telling me do all these things and watch all these things, so it's pretty cool. But my question is when you use a particular device, it can do different lighting, different shading. How are you differentiating that, I guess? Is it your own device that you're giving to these and they're per click? Or am I downloading the app on my phone?
You're downloading an app. Our differentiator is
Yeah,
the
that's-
marker.
Is that little tiny
That's the
sticker?
differentiator
That's the
between us
calibration.
and ChatGPT.
Gotcha.
So that honestly is
So how are you
the magic.
controlling from the angles that they're taking the pictures at, and is it because you're doing this long kind of video?
So
that
it
is
doesn't really
capturing?
matter what angle you take
Okay.
it at for the picture, if you want just a 2D image. Because of this is actually getting the corrected data, like you said, it's giving you a frame of reference, it's giving you points to extract data from, so that it can get sizing information accurately.
Gotcha.
Because this actually has little, it has little marks that it can actually grab data from, because it knows that from this mark to this mark, whether it's curved, whether it's folded, whether anything, it is this exact distance from
That's
each
the
other.
brains really of it.
Say again?
That's the brains of it really.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a ruler.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
literally a ruler.
To your point about the consumer push, why don't you just do that? Release it to consumer, it can measure wounds, no diagnostics, but you get all the data, then.
Have
you
them buy the
become-
app.
It's free app.
Yeah.
He's
No, but I
getting
mean
the
by
data.
the clicks, the scans or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
so-
you're saying go straight to the consumer and
Yeah.
let the consumer make the decision.
Correct.
Well, get the data from them.
Sell it to the insurance company.
Become a household name.
Yeah.
So we just signed a very large contract with the world's largest Band-Aid company. And
Then
they.
you can say,
and-
you just signed it.
And we're not gonna white label it, but we're actually gonna become, the plan is to become a household name.
Okay.
We're just not actively talking about it right now until that deal goes through fully, but,
Cool.
we are going to the B2C market, which is why I was saying we're mostly B2B currently. We will go to B2C market, but that comes with its own set of headaches. B2B is it's, B2C is a different monster than B2B. You have to, be nice to the customer, where B2B is just professional relationships, you have to have customer support, you have to, it's another monster.
Mhm.
So we wanna make sure that we're ready for that before we do it. We don't have, ChatGPT can already, you can take a picture and they'll give you
Yeah.
medical advice. They don't get their ass handed to them by the FDA, but we do. So.
Yeah, and have your barcodes built into the Band-Aid and stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah.
So, does the camera phone, phone camera, does it provide, more spectral range than an eyeball?
It depends on the camera. It really depends on the camera, because like I said, we can be used anywhere from an old camera to a new one. If we're talking maybe like my iPhone 16, yeah, probably. We probably can't see everything that the camera can see, especially because my phone can, it can do LiDAR. But for example, I keep going back to the Pixel 6, because that was kind of Pixel 6a, that was more of a budget phone by Google. Probably not. But at the end of the day, all we really need, it's really, I hate to say it, but the product is quite simple. It's just dependent on our data and the accuracy of the sticker. It's just that data set. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It took us 3 years to collect that data, validate the data, and ship it.
So during that time, did you take like multiple different phones, different generations, and then measure them against the same wounds or like the same test and see?
Yeah, so we are accurate down to 0.001 millimeters from just a phone camera, and that was our frame of reference to be able to say we're good all the way to an iPhone 3. Even to the iPhone 3, we were still accurate time over time down to 0.001 millimeters. Older, original iPhone, we tested it on it. Very hard to download an app on that, by the way. We tested on the original iPhone. It was more an image that we were taking from the original iPhone and kind of uploading it to our servers.
Gotcha.
But we tested on there. It was still accurate, but not as accurate. Just the image quality it's nowhere.
Right.
There was a big jump from generations back then that you would jump from 1 megapixel to 4 megapixels, and that's. We like to say that we're we're clinically accurate down to 3 megapixels.
And what was your data set size?
Do not know what, like our photos?
Yeah.
Oh, we We have millions now.
Oh, millions.
Yeah, we have millions of different photos that we've extracted data from, different wound photos, different angles. Because keep in mind that when they're taking videos, we're able to extract frames from that video.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so, we're able to get different angles from that video, and we can train based off that data.
So how long has your company been in business?
4 years.
And how long has it been operational when you got a product to that?
Operational as in we are selling directly, or operational as in we're doing clinical trials?
Well, I guess when your product is out there being used and
So-
viable.
Like making money, we just have making money.
Okay, making money for the last year.
Last year.
Yeah, and in the 3 years before that, we were in clinical trials offering the product for free just to collect data.
So it's taking you, say, 6 years to get to the point where you're at?
4 years.
5 years.
4 years.
4
Four,
years.
almost 5 years now, yeah.
5 years.
Pretty
5
fast.
years to be making money.
Yes, yeah, we're profitable, yeah.
Pretty good.
Are you actively seeking funding?
Yes, we are actively seeking funding. We're kind of at a stage to where in the US market, we want to sign a couple more big names because we're kind of getting close to that, before we take on any more funding to increase the valuation, to be frank. But, yeah, we're actively seeking funding.
And you
Can
did
you give us
Series
some
A
range?
already.
Say again?
Can you give a range?
We can probably talk about it a little bit more privately, yeah, we can, if you know anyone who'd be willing to invest, or if you're interested in investing, I'm more than happy to meet with you, yeah.
I have some questions. So with the US market and I guess other markets, how much money do you expect that you could, like the healthcare system in the United States can save using this? And like, do you think that other countries have a bigger return on investment for using this? Are there some countries where they have some sort of chronic like issue for some reason? Like you mentioned in the United States, ulcers with diabetes. Are there other countries where they have a particular use case where it'd be really effective? And how much do you think you could save in different countries?
So, like I said, for the United States, the average patient is spending $20,000 on wound care treatment yearly. So if we are able to, and that's of course because of amputations, because of different, it's really because of amputations is the biggest cost,
Right.
operations. If we're able to catch that wound getting to that stage early on, we're able to save, let's say, $10,000 per patient. Multiply that by 2% of the United States lives with chronic wounds, millions. So we're able to save literally billions of dollars. And I know that it's a very open-ended question because it's really hard to put a number on it.
Right.
It's like saying, you know, we're in a $2 trillion industry, and yeah, but you're never going to have 90% of that, right? But
right.
It's hard to put a number on it, but if we're able to become a household name and we're able to see, we're able to track wounds in a quantifiable way, we're really going to be able to take that wound, take that data, and make it to actionable results that save time, save money, and kind of connect the entire healthcare industry when it comes to wounds, because it really is just, it's nurses, clinicians, or it's doctors, nurses, the nurse practitioners who are seeing it. And everyone is seeing that wound, and everyone is seeing a different thing with their eyes, everyone's seeing a different thing with the pictures that they have right now.
When you say wounds, do you cover cancers? Do you cover any other use cases where
So-
it's not particularly an injury or a wound, but something that turns into a wound, like a disease?
So we'll cover, for example, post-surgical wounds. So like, for example, if you had cancer and needed a resection, yes, we'll cover that. But we have to train our data set on anything that's not a burn currently, or a laceration where you have exposure.
So no skin cancer or anything like that?
So skin cancer is actually something that we're testing on,
Mhm.
and something that we're collecting data on, because actually one of the use cases that we're looking into is if we have this accurate data, we can actually, at the same time that you're taking care of a wound, you can scan for signs of skin cancer. It's quite easy, actually. ChatGPT can tell you if you have skin cancer pretty accurately these days.
Yeah.
So it's not that difficult. So actually a use case that we're looking into currently.
Mhm.
We just don't know. We want to be very hyper-focused on what our market is at first, until we grow. Once we grow, then we can have departments that are working on other things, but we're very hyper-focused on growth right now. We spent 3 years developing, we're hyper-focused on now growing, making money, so, yeah.
Good job.
And so I'm guessing right now the primary focus is United States, and then once you kind of get the United States conquered, let's say, then you start thinking about more globally.
Yeah, so Europe is, like I said, we have a pretty good base there. Right now, the two big focuses that we're in the United States and in Taiwan. So we were actually just at a medical conference in Taipei as well, and so we have a couple investors out there, and the government is quite interested actually in integrating us into their military. And so we were just invited out there to kind of get a couple more talks. And so Taiwan and Asia, we're looking at Taiwan right now, and the US. But after that, our next biggest market is probably to start going into more of these Asian countries. And we're partnering Africa. So I can tell you this because I'm Middle Eastern. The Middle East is a different market. If you don't have someone who's Middle Eastern or have someone who knows the Middle Eastern market very well, it's very hard to get into that market. And so we're more working with licensing in the Middle East, or selling to distributors in the Middle East and letting them handle that market, or letting them have exclusivity in that market. In Africa, we're working more with NGOs and with nonprofit organizations.
Alright, I have to leave a little earlier, would you mind showing?
Oh, yeah, we could, yeah, sure, why not?
What's the name of the company again?
It's called Derma2. Derma2, the product is called Twin Skin.
Twin Skin?
Yeah, Twin Skin, yeah.
Derma?
Yeah, and it's on the App Store. Anyone here can download it, and if you download it and you wanna give it a try, I'll give you guys markers. I have plenty of them.
Yes. My son's.
We won't collect your data. We asked for it.
My son's willing.
So what would you use it for as a consumer now? Just tracking day over day,
Yeah.
gets better?
Yeah, so you can take the 3D imaging and you can track actually, if it's getting better day over day as well. So, that we can do. No one's gonna tell us you cannot provide measurements of the wound,
Yeah, right.
but, we unfortunately cannot give medical advice yet.
Just gotta make it a fun game somehow.
Yeah, good job, 50% there to the whole wound healing, you know, yeah. They say gamified is the investor's best term, right?
It's True Skin?
Twin Skin.
Twin.
Yeah, because we named it that way in Europe because we make a digital twin of the skin.
Oh.
Yeah, but, in the US, we've heard some different connotations on that name, so we don't know. We don't know if we're gonna keep naming it that here as an organ.
Does it have any pop-up on your screen?
Well, it's popping up that it has an HDMI connected. I can connect to Apple TV.
It says HDMI.
I can just connect to Apple TV.
Oh, wow, this is awesome.
There we go. And this is Anton, right?
So in about 6 months, it'll be able to give recommendations.
Hopefully, as long as the FDA doesn't tell us something.
Good luck on that.
Right. Yeah, hopefully we should be able to. I am going to do I'm going to give you guys what no one likes to do. I'm going to give you guys kind of a live demo and hope that it doesn't mess up in the live demo because they always love to mess up in the live demo of how it would kind of work.
Did you download it?
Yep.
Which one is it?
Yeah,
it looks like that,
Right there.
oh, there we go.
Yeah. So.
No, I put my son's wounds to.
So,
No, it was getting infected, or like it's infected.
So once you kind of get into the app, you're gonna want. So let's pretend that you guys are the clinician and this is your patient. So your patient has this wound. It's an open lesion. You can already see that it has pus. Okay, now we want to scan it. So you're gonna go ahead. I'm sorry, I know I'm not doing the best at showing everyone this. You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna take the scanner and you're gonna place it right there next to the wound. As long as it's in field of view, it's fine.
If it's rotated, doesn't matter.
So we recommend that you put it vertically, but it works pretty accurately regardless.
Okay.
Yeah, so we recommend that you have it, but it doesn't matter on what, if you mean like 90 degrees, no, it doesn't matter. You can put it in whatever orientation you wish.
Just not 45.
Yeah, well, we recommend not, yeah. So you can go ahead, so our patient is test demo today, right? So you go ahead and you click on the on add picture. You go ahead and add the picture. It's gonna kind of give you instructions on how to add it, what the best thing to do, or what the best practices are. So you just literally go ahead and you can see how there's some shadowing there from the phone camera or from the phone itself. You go ahead and take that picture. It's gonna ask you, okay, do you wanna take a video to get a 3D scan? And I say yes, and it's gonna guide you in what directions you still need to go in.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
And you go ahead and just take that scan right there. It wants to like me today. Like I said, live demos don't work, but oh, there you go. Okay. So it's gonna go ahead and upload that. And so it takes maybe a couple seconds to upload it, depending on what phone you have. It might be faster or slower, and depending on the internet that you have. But
You said it should do it all locally.
huh?
You said it can do it all locally?
It can do it all locally. Yeah, it can do it all locally. The all locally is currently in beta, and it's only rolled out to our NGOs that are using it now, right now. So this is a picture I took 2 days ago. You can see that it's taking a cross-sectional design, or cross-sectional measurements of the wound. From here you can see the area and dimension data. And here is really the cool thing, wherein you click on 3D view. This was done in about 20 seconds. And so you can really see that depth.
Wow.
You can really see how that wound actually looks.
Wow.
You don't see that in the 2D image.
Yeah.
But once you get into the 3D view, you really do see, okay, this has some depth to it.
Yeah.
It's not just a wound lesion. And I can actually show you, just a fair warning, I'll show you guys a real one.
Yeah.
So if anyone can't look, just look away.
You're not gonna make us throw up, right?
I'll try my best to use one that's not too bad. This is not too bad.
Okay, yeah.
So this was back when we were still testing.
Wow.
This was, as you can see, our marker was ugly
Is
and
that a
everything.
foot?
This is a foot.
Yeah.
This is
Wow.
the front of your foot. So, you can see that in the 3D view, you get all that depth.
Wow.
You get all that. You can move it left and right, up and down.
Was that diabetes?
Yep, this is
I would say
diabetic
make,
ulcer.
run to the hospital, actually.
Yeah, see, this person didn't come to the hospital.
Nope.
They just let it kind of eat their foot up until we started using it.
I know.
And so you can see.
Preventable too, right?
Yeah.
I would've been there.
And so you can see how these are two different angles, still getting the measurement. And even though it's two different angles, you can still see the 3D view from both angles, and so you can really get an idea of what it really truly looks like.
In that picture then, your sticker looks different to the one you have, right?
Right.
Is
So
that
this-
because you stick the
Different
stickers
generation.
Yeah,
for different
yeah.
things, is it?
No, it's the same
All
sticker,
generations.
but it's a different generation. So
Yeah.
this is when we first started clinical testing. This is, I think, Gen 2. This is more clinical testing. So you can see the progression of that wound healing.
What's the recommendation for how many times we scan it on our patient?
We do not give that recommendation to doctors. Doctors can take that decision for themselves.
Yeah.
What we typically see is once a month or twice a month, depending on the severity of the wound.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and get this out of your guys' faces.
So did you develop that sticker then, or is that something that is used in other applications?
So this sticker, we developed it in-house as well, just for our use case. Actually, we were just approached by another company, it's a skincare company, that wants to use our sticker because it's very accurate, and wants to use our sticker and our color calibration model in order to recommend skincare colors, like makeup coloring, based on the person's skin tone. But yeah, we've not decided on whether or not we're gonna license that to them yet, but so this is a different one from the one I showed you guys earlier, but this is another 3D view. I don't know if this one is finished yet. It has. There you go. This is the one that we just did here on the table.
So then if we're scanning it once a month, I mean, an infection can happen pretty quickly.
Well, that's up to the doctor.
Yeah, you're gonna want, but,
You can scan it more often if you
yeah, I
want,
was gonna
but
say.
that's up to the
I
doctor.
guess you
it's
can
not
see
up to us.
how it's going and decide, oh yeah, I need to scan it again,
Right.
because there's a big difference. so
Exactly, and
instead of waiting.
that's the biggest thing is really, this wound care has really been, this looks worse today, I think. It's that I think, you're gambling,
Yeah.
you don't know. I think it looks worse, okay, now how do we find out? Okay, you're gonna draw a circle and start measuring and it's gonna be wrong, because how do you get area information from this?
It almost needs a second set of eyes, they go, oh, that's still really red.
Right.
You know, you
Yeah.
might need to go to the top.
Yeah, and so in the app itself, we're actually able to, create a treatment plan, we're able to take notes, we're actually able to, prescribe. In Europe, this has been great, we can use it. In the US, I think we are not going to use it, because everyone uses an EHR, like, for example, when I go to the doctor, I go to Baylor Scott and White, and Baylor Scott and White sends me all my treatment notes and everything in Baylor's app. But since we're integrated with the EHRs, or once we get integrated with the EHRs, that'll just be pushed directly from our server. The information will come to our server, go to the EHR, go to the patient, however they do their API calls.
But you're able to see underneath the scab, you said that you guys were able to do that now, right?
So we're working on the diodes to do it. Yeah, you mean for blood flow?
No,
What do
no,
you
no,
mean?
when the wound scabs,
Oh, yeah, so.
how are you seeing underneath to the bone if it's scabbed over?
Oh, maybe I misunderstood, you're talking about what I
Yeah, you answered that
so
question,
maybe.
you said with the burn, you're able to do that because the burns will develop that superficial, over there, I'm confused, sorry, never mind.
So, we're not able to see it under the scab, what we are able to see is the progression of the wound healing of a burn, and if a laceration is deep enough, we're able to measure the volume of that laceration down to the bone. We're able to get the depth down to the bone. You can take one, go ahead.
Nah, that's cool, yeah, limited number.
Oh, I have plenty in my backpack, I have thousands.
Can I have one?
Yeah, thank you. Here, I'll tell you guys what, let me grab one out of my backpack, I'll just pass it around, anyone who wants to take one, go ahead.
Right, I would've done it, I would've scanned my son. I did, I put it in the chat.
Good luck, look forward to seeing you in J&J soon.
Right.
Wink, yeah,
Alright.
thank you.
There you go.
It's going in my first aid kit.
Oh, there you go.
For backpack.
Yeah. I'll leave them here for
I
whoever.
want one.
Okay.
The app
Pass
is
it around.
free, I
Yeah, sure.
downloaded it.
Yeah,
It's the
if you guys wanna
click.
just pass it around.
So can you tell us how much it is per click?
Per scan, yeah, so
Yeah.
like I was, so
Is it
for.
$100, $1,000,
A dollar for a
So-
big account, right?
Yeah, so it depends, for a small account, it's $1 per scan. And so for example, if a distributor were to do, if a distributor were to buy 1,000 scans, we'd be at around $1 a scan.
Okay.
Bigger hospital systems were at around 60 cents per scan.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they can decide how to charge. And, I mean, if any of you guys want to test the product, more than happy to open that up, to you guys and provide you guys with as many scans as you'd like.
Anyone got a wound?
Well, we can work on that.
Do we have
Well,
to shoot
Kevin,
ourselves in the
got
foot?
blood.
Huh?
Do we need to shoot ourselves in the foot or something?
Right.
You're in Texas, it's only
I
a
don't-
matter of time.
Right,
All we
right.
need is a pair of
I'm not
jeans.
gonna tell you what to do, but I mean, if you wanna contribute to our clinical data, you're more than welcome to.
Now, I have a question,
Yeah.
can you scan a 2D image, like if we took a picture of it, can you scan it?
No, because you need the video the video actually goes around the wound, like you saw how I was doing.
Okay, so if
from
you
different
had a
angles.
picture, you couldn't do the video on the picture?
No, because it would be
Gotcha.
2D.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright. Just
Yeah, you wouldn't have
asking
any
a
depth,
question.
yeah.
Just asking a question.
No, thank you. And I'll leave these here, if anyone wants to grab more than one, you're more than welcome to, but, yeah, so these are, like I said, cost us almost nothing to make, and you guys are welcome to take as many as you'd like. And that's my card, like I said, if you guys wanna actually trial it, use it, you're more than welcome to, just send
Are
me an
you
email.
based out of Boston?
I'm based out of Boston, I've lived
Okay.
here for 13 years now.
When do you plan to do your clinical trial in the US?
As soon as someone wants us to do their clinical trial. It's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult to get one here, but we're trying to find what the right clinical trial would be for us, because there's just so many different applications for our product. we could be testing the efficacy of a medication, or we could be, you know, it really depends on what we want to do. We kind of have a lot of options. But yeah.
Pretty
They're
cool.
expensive.
Yeah, well, usually the hospital systems pay for them, which is the good thing, as long as we provide the product for free. Yeah.
How's your corporation set up? Are you C Corp or are you privately owned?
So we're from Belgium, so it's similar to an LLC actually. So we're actually we're formed similar to an LLC in Belgium.
Do you ever have aspirations of going to IPO or something like that?
Maybe right now we have if we can get to that point, of course. I mean, I think that's everyone's aspiration.
So it's privately.
It's privately owned, equity based.
Are you Series A now, or?
Yeah, so we're going to Series A funding now. We already did our pre-seed. We're just trying to raise our valuation a little bit before we raise again.
Awesome.
I have one more question. So is there anything that, like, I should have asked, or that's interesting about your company that I probably wouldn't know? Like something that maybe is unexpected, like that you expected, but then it turned out totally unexpected?
I think that we really expected a lot more resistance to the product, but the biggest resistors are actually not the clinicians and not the patients. Who we really thought would be the biggest resistance. The biggest resistance is the hospital systems, and not because they don't like the product, but because they're just so slow. In the US, hospital systems are ridiculously slow when you compare them with tech companies. When you compare them with, they're a legacy company. Hospitals, oil and gas, telecom. There are the three legacies that do not want to move. They're at the table, but do they innovate? No, they sit down. And the good thing is that we're in Texas, where we're by TMC, who is probably the more innovative of the hospitals. Those guys want to be in the lead of clinical trials, clinical devices, but it takes so much to actually become used in the hospital systems here, because those are going to be our bulk buyers. Because one hospital systems might have, like Baylor Scott and White might have 300 clinics where they might use us. We want to be in Baylor Scott and White, but Baylor Scott and White wants us to go through a pilot program where they test us in maybe one room, and then we expand the pilot program to 10 rooms, and then we expand it to one clinic, and then we expand it to 10 clinics. It's a years-long process.
Would you be interested in going to Nevada?
Yes, we're interested in going anywhere in the US. If anyone has any contacts here, I'll be right on the nose and say it. Please send them my way. I will travel to wherever it is to meet them. I've learned that in the healthcare world, in-person meetings and networking events are a lot more valuable than on the phone, because it's a lot harder to stay down.
I'm gonna give you one market and one patentable idea.
Okay.
So the market, which will pay a lot more than $1 per scan.
Sure.
Is cosmetic surgery.
Okay.
And the healing process after cosmetic surgery.
Yeah. So we're actually with plastic surgeons right now working on. Yeah, we're working on that. But yeah.
And the patentable idea is just using the same camera, but with a UV flashlight.
It's interesting. Why?
It'll fluoresce.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'll bring that to my technical people.
It'll fluoresce differently depending on what's in the wound.
Very interesting.
And so it'll change the color. And then you can take a picture with and without the UV.
Yeah, maybe we can integrate that into our hardware that we're developing with a diode. I wouldn't say that probably wouldn't be too difficult to implement. Yeah, it's a great idea. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah, I think that's kind of everything that we're working on.
Thank you for
really,
sharing.
thank you guys so much for listening. You guys have been great. It's really rare that I get to talk to people who actually care about wounds. Even though you guys are probably pretending to care, but it's okay.
Well, we do.
Judging by the number of stickers that we're taking.
No, I'm happy. I'm really happy.
I want to see the REI branded version of the stickers,
Yeah, I know.
How many mountain bikers around here need this?
Yeah.
It's like you hit a tree, you have a few puncture wounds, or you hit a rock, and you don't really know.
Yeah, B2C is a big market that we're going to target, but we want to make sure we're ready for it, because this is just one of those things that if you're not ready for the B2C market, it'll eat you, and your company will collapse. B2C is a different muscle than B2B. It really, there's no professionalism in B2C. You're dealing with everyone, and sometimes there are people that you don't want to deal with.
Plus the marketing costs are very difficult to
Yes.
estimate. Very
Yeah, you think the
difficult.
FDA is bad.
Yeah, exactly.
People are worse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you worry about just the lawsuits that you could get.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause you're gonna get people that don't know what they're doing, then they're gonna be hitting you with this from.
Why didn't it heal, and they
Yeah, and I
weren't
went to the
treated, now
doctor,
they're
got this,
blaming
that,
you
and
for
it's
it not healing,
Yeah.
and.
Alright. Yeah, so internally, we're really working on just being fully right. We're not, we hit, everything we do it fast, and that's the really big thing that I like about being with this company. We do everything fast, we're always first to market, but we do it correctly, and we do our due diligence. We do not come into something if we don't know that we can succeed into it. That's, I think, the biggest differentiator that I'd say we have.
I think what's huge is your predictability model, where you can just look at the wound and say, this is going to be this, or this is gonna be that, or.
Yeah.
That's gonna be huge.
Yeah.
How big's the team?
We have about 16 people, full-time right now.
In America or total?
No, I am alone here in the US,
Oh, wow.
unfortunately. I go, yeah, but, no, most of that is consists of developers. All our developers are in-house because we're building our product in-house, we don't wanna outsource it.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about the founders?
Yeah, sure. So, I've been involved with the founders for quite some time now. The founders they were two brothers, who he used to actually making hardware devices, but saw this need kind of in the medical market. They exited from their last company, and had some money to dabble around with, and this was the idea that they decided on going with. It made the most sense to them.
When did they start?
4.5 years ago, 5 years ago almost.
They live in Belgium?
They live in Belgium full time there. So one of the brothers actually is not as involved anymore. He's more involved in the AI side of things for the company, but he's not involved in operations. They're both technical, and that's where kind of I come in and our managing director comes in. We're more of the business development side of things, operations side of things, whereas the founders are more technical people. They are able to see a problem, solve the problem quickly. But as of 8 or 9 months ago, this was more of a product and idea without the operations side of things, kind of, and the biz dev side of things, kind of leading it into an actual sellable product. When we came in more full-time, being the managing director, we're kind of been transforming how we look at the business model of the company, 5-year plan, the cap tables, all these kinds of things that they're not, even though they've exited from a company before that was theirs and they found it, they also had more biz dev and operational people coming to that company.
So is there a CEO, CMO?
Yeah, so we have our managing director, which in Europe is what we call the CEO. We have a COO in Europe as well. We have a CMO kind of, but he isn't full time. He sits more on the advisory board. And most of our full time workers are our developers. And we have other full-time workers that aren't on our, our cap tables because of the fact that, in Europe, tax laws are different, and so they end up, even our managing director is a contractor for our company, not a full-time employee, because the tax laws are different. Yeah.
Are you looking to expand the team in the US?
Yes, absolutely. As soon as we have our first client that is, I'd say, what I'd call a big ticket client, which is 50,000 ARR or higher for us, we are going to start expanding the team here. Right now, we don't, when I say our team in the US is just me, I'm the only full-time person here in the US. I have salespeople, I have some some assistants that help here and there, but they aren't full-time in the company. We want to expand our base, and we want to be a little bit frugal with what we're spending here in the US because we need to save a lot of money for FDA approval. And so until we get to that point, or until we sign a few clients and raise some more money, we're trying to keep it as, because
Yeah.
also the next few rounds of employees, you know, the rounds of employees that we had before, we were hiring them with obviously salary and equity. Next few rounds of employees that we're gonna be hiring is probably just gonna be base salary, yeah.
And like, do you have a timeline, or do you have a tentative timeline for that?
Probably within the next 3 or 4 months, we're gonna start expanding the team here in the US. We're getting quite close to signing some big deals here, but you know, they take some time to go through.
Your company, for all its endeavors that it's doing, is it profitable yet, or?
Yes, yeah, and the company is profitable, yes.
So your, the clients that you're looking for here, that's just basically clinical trials, so they'll get the product for free, or they still have to pay for it?
So, clinical trials will be free, or, I mean, if they wanna pay for it, they'll pay for it. We're not approaching them saying we'll give you the product for free.
Yeah.
But typically that's the conversation, that's how it goes. So yeah, we typically do, provide the product for free for clinical trials because it's beneficial for us to collect that data anyways. And, clinical trials are important here in the US, and for US based healthcare companies, they, well, I say for whatever reason, but I know why. They really like to see clinical data that comes from the US and not from outside. They do not like European clinical data, because of some, it's more because of some liability considerations. We didn't do it, or it's not approved by a US medical board, or it's not approved by the IRB here in the US, so we don't wanna use that data, or that doesn't matter for us. Go ahead.
So it will be first phase? So
Say-
it will be first phase for clinical trial?
Yes, yeah, phase 1, yeah.
Here in the US,
Yeah,
but
in
they've
the
done
US, no,
clinical trials in Europe.
Yeah, in Europe, we've been there for 4 years doing clinical trials.
But for phase 1, you don't need to have a lot of healthcare
No.
spaces. You technically can go with one facility, that's it.
Absolutely.
And like from 1, 2 to 10 people. And
Absolutely, yeah.
Patients and.
We're not struggling to find, we have plenty of people who are interested in doing clinical trials. We're struggling to decide what is the most beneficial, because clinical trials, while we say are free, are not free. They take time,
No,
resources.
they're not free.
Yeah.
We still need to pay clinic.
Yeah,
to
well,
manage.
most of the clinics that we're talking to were willing to do the clinical trial for us for free, but it takes man hours.
So is this AI R&D institutions or is just regular?
No, regular clinics, because, actually, the most interesting one for me is a laser wound therapy clinic. Because they want to use our product kind of in synergy, not only validate our product, but validate that theirs works. So it's kind of beneficial for both of us. But, I don't know, the implications are there. It's kind of just internal stuff that we have to hash out before we decide on who we go with.
So if patients are coming into the clinic, where does it add value?
For the clinic?
Yeah.
It adds that value because there's records for the insurance companies. Right now there is no records. It is literally
Just
ancient.
descriptive type.
Descriptive, you know, the patient has a lesion, the lesion is this size length, this size, width.
Do they take a picture though?
The picture usually stays on the phone of the provider or the clinician. And that reminds me, I don't think I ever answered your question on if we provide the devices. We do not provide the devices.
Yeah, you
Most
said that.
hospital systems, oh, I did say that, okay. Yeah, most hospitals, most hospitals, they give all their clinicians, hospital phones, hospital devices, and if not, then we have kind of our HIPAA.
They're overrun.
iPads and other devices.
But they're also overrun with devices, right? Like every company that works with them gives them a device.
Right.
Sure, half them aren't even charged up.
Yep.
So if the insurance companies are not asking for the photos now, why are they gonna ask for your photos?
Because the insurance companies are asking for the photos.
I think
Oh,
they're
they're not
so much money.
sending them?
No, so they do send them, but what does the insurance company get out of a 2D photo that does nothing? What we do, the value that we provide is we provide the data that comes out of that photo. We provide actual clinical grade data, not a nurse or an intern taking a literal measurement with a piece of measuring tape and guessing the area measurement.
Yeah.
Because there is no way for me to take an area measurement of this unless I divide it into 1,000 triangles. I can't do that. The computer can.
Yeah, I think insurance companies would love it.
Yeah, and that's
And
the
patients
feedback that
too,
we've been
they-
getting from insurance
yeah.
companies is we can now accept or deny claims based on data. And right now, insurance companies are denying a lot more claims than I think that they should be. I think they're gonna start accepting a lot more claims
Yeah, I was
because
just
of our
gonna
product.
say,
And they're gonna
it's
save money,
backfire.
Yes.
accepting them earlier rather than when it's
Absolutely.
almost too
It
late.
costs them a lot of money, and
Yeah.
insurance doesn't think that way. You'd
Yeah.
be surprised. Otherwise, we'd all be on Ozempic.
Yeah.
My mom had a broken foot for.
Insurance companies think about their bottom line. Is it gonna cost us more to develop the product? They don't go and develop the solution. They go and see who's going to pay for the solution. They don't want to pay for the solution.
Right.
They don't care. They want, we have our business, insurance models, and insurance companies have their business model where no matter what happens, they're making money.
Mhm.
So they're not gonna go and pay for the solution because they don't care enough. It's not gonna make that big of a difference for their bottom line. But if someone else is paying for the solution, then of course they'll take the free extra money.
Yeah, and do the clinics sometimes have to eat the costs of doing particular service, like giving someone a particular service because they know they need it, even if insurance doesn't provide for it?
It depends on it depends on the hospital system. Like for example, if we look at Parkland in Dallas, Parkland deals with mostly patients who have no insurance, but they're a branch out of UT Southwestern. UT Southwestern deals with more patients who have insurance, and so they offset the cost of the patients that don't have insurance and don't pay from the patients who are paying and the insurance that's paying out claims. So it really depends. The hospitals might have to eat the cost of a couple patients, but at the end of the day, like I said, we're maybe too cheap here in the US, so, yeah.
And for like a small clinic that, if someone goes in there and they, have a lesion or something like that, they need a treatment to it, and they're not able to get their insurance company to, provide the payment for that. I'm guessing do clinics sometimes complain that they get their ratings deduct, do the ratings of those clinics get affected by that kind of thing?
By patient not paying.
What is the benefit to the clinics of having this? Are there customers?
They get more payouts from insurance.
Okay.
They get more payouts from insurance, and even if insurance was not going to pay, and let's say that the clinics had to pay for this out of pocket, they're saving more money than the patient having to drive in. They have to give a patient a slot at their hospital or their spot. They have to pay for the nurse's time to go and measure that. It takes time to do that measurement. They have to pay for the, every single time you have to measure it, you have to undress the wound, redress the wound. That falls on the cost of the clinic. You have to think about the cost of literally, as simple as it sounds, the medical, the tape, the rulers. Yeah, it's a ruler, but it has to be a medical grade ruler.
Right.
So,
Even the speed and accuracy of it by
Absolutely.
itself, right? Like you could take a picture, it gives you the measurements.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine a poor nurse holding an upset patient and trying to guesstimate it?
Takes a
right?
couple seconds.
Plus you save a ton of time on appeals.
Yes, absolutely. You have the data. You send it in. It's really, I like to say it's a no-brainer, and I know that that's just me kissing my own ass, but at the end of the day, it kind of is a no-brainer for the hospital systems to use and the clinics to use because we have actionable data that has not existed in this space before.
Welcome to America.
Right.
Very bureaucratic and just slow, like you said.
Yeah, that's their system,
Right.
but that's the system we're all in, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
Ah, fantastic.
That's
Well
awesome.
done.
You got a lot to pack today.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
So that's it. Did anybody here park in Capital Factory's parking garage?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Or no, we're not.
I did.
We couldn't get our car in there. It's got a limit.
Okay. I've got parking validation if y'all need parking validation.
Oh, she went to sleep.
I also have to give a quick spiel to Capital Factory. Capital Factory allows us to host our event. They gave us this event space for free so that we could have, Adam as a company, have you guys here. They also have co-working. We're on the 16th floor. They have a nice co-working space there. You can do tours of that, and there's a free co-working on Tuesdays on the 5th floor.
Apple Factory's pretty cool, I work out here. I've been
Oh,
back
yeah.
up, yeah, I work out here.
I think AD saw you on the 5th floor, right?
Yeah, that's where I met AD here at Apple Factory. Yeah.
And there's, what, 1,000 beds a year?
Oh, yeah, there's no shortage of events here.
So, thank you, Capital Factory. And, yeah, that's it, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening.
We had until,
Oh, I thought you
we
got
never leave the
Did you
room
get
until
there?
8:45,
I
so.
did.
Nice to meet you. What's your name? Laura. She was fantastic, wasn't it? Hello, how are you?
Oh,
doing good.
I know.
Oh, this is the calibration sticker that works with the app.
Do you have LinkedIn?
So you put that next to the wound.
Thank you so much, yeah. Anyone who would wanna use that, please, let us know. Okay, thank you. Nice to meet you.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go,
Did you just walk in or I didn't see you?
No, I was in the back. Starting right at the end, or not at the end, but.
Are you in the medical field or? That's exactly what I do. How's it going?
Are you in tech too? Health tech? Do you have LinkedIn? I gotta run back to you.
What kind of
Sorry.
What's
your tech?
Oh, I run a software development shop. Well, class 2 and class 3.
You want what?
Class 2 and class 3. We work with a lot of companies.
for kind of keeping Europe, just because our European team
We're doing some more.
communicates better in French.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know if it's gonna be a bit of a pain, if
How big of a company are you? I haven't started.
my card, yeah, and if you want LinkedIn, then my phone number on it, that's feel free to text me. If you wanna text me, I'll link you up on LinkedIn and all that.
Some of the development stuff.
Okay.
You're in
Yeah, I'm here at Capital Factory.
Or you're doing it?
I run the
Pleasure as well. I hope the app will be a few days wherever.
Are you programming as well or you?
No, my, I've got a CTO.
Thanks.
Yeah, I came from the product. Product. Not how it's. What's it?
Design the devices, the architecture, some of the hardware, and then we so we do 360 when it comes to building devices, and we build one medical device, and then we did the AI infrastructure for the AI app. We do the first 5 samples, 5, 10, or whatever is required, and after that, we transfer the design and basically mass production is where we finally mass produce it. We do the first 5 or 10.
No, we've worked with a couple of device manufacturers, some with better success than others, more organized. But this was more in the, we did a lot of work with oil and gas. Right now I'm just trying to focus on healthcare.
They're really good on IoT. If you're looking for a partner for IoT, I can help you out with that. Assembling devices and doing IoT.
We help them track growth, so sensors that go through the fibers of growth, temperature, tension, location, those are everything that's got your driving axis.
They're close to the French side.
We don't manufacture it.
We have subs in, we do it in Macedonia. I'm from Macedonia, so we have subs over here that manufacture.
I like the company use the same advice you use when you're all.
Don't put it in the car. Engineers are in Eastern Europe, so. Well, we're in the same ballpark. People want to consider me a digital wire. And I'm the face of the business here in the United States. We have a business, we have a business over here. I'm in San Antonio, yeah, but I come off here. I also have a construction business. Yeah, I'm doing the Louis Vuitton store now. Yeah, I'm doing the flooring here. I have the flooring construction baby.
My wife just quit. She's been banker for 20 years and we just bossed her down. So, it's like we're in the same, one's very technical, one is very not technical.
Alright, I don't know what the words do not follow me.
Okay, we renovated our house for 3 years, we almost did. Our words were set, we were
That's good.
10 and 8.
Okay, I have 2-3-year-olds, 20 dollars.
Okay. Just starting to.
Everyone
talk back.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. When I complain about the toddlers and they're defiant, nagging and stuff like that, and then everybody's like, wait until it becomes so big. Austin based?
I've been here since 2012.
2012. Where are you from? From which state?
I'm from Brazil.
Oh, okay. The developers are in Brazil, right?
Some in Brazil, some in Ukraine.
Yeah, no, this is so what's
I used to do a lot of work with Russian developers when I did that.
Yeah, you can't do it.
So, we had, so I moved to Boston from New York.
Yes, to San Antonio. Well, my soon-to-be ex-wife is from San Antonio. American football or soccer? Both? Tell me your Seahawks fans. There's a huge Seahawks fan community in Brazil. That's why I'm asking. Yeah, I'm a Seahawks fan.
I've got some friends who went to the Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl.
They showed it the other day. Like Super Bowl classic.
Yeah, I grew up in Boston too, so.
Oh yeah, well that explains it.
Great.
Your name again, sorry? Philly. Nice to meet you. Go visit something. You want to meet someone?
I have never been to this
So that's how things
I have
started with, and then also
the last one they would start there is those first no one wants to not help someone. People are too afraid to ask. I've never heard someone say no.
So what's the best
It's one of the ones really good.
We can,
they,
People,
I
I've
will
heard,
be
you know,
told
people
me,
that-
But if I had that, like, they would have been scattered. Okay, yeah, if I heard about that, yeah. I don't want to.
I talked to you already.
Yeah, and you will come in on Thursday, right?
On what?
Thursday.
Thursday?
I don't know what's happening.
You need to follow all my instructions. For Sunday meeting, because I will always house tag around for
I'm signed up.
You're
busy Thursdays, mark your calendar, you're busy Thursdays.
Yeah, and last time I talked to my event guy, signing for super, else super. So I was.
For us,
Yeah, and it's like 49, 40 bucks.
I'm a consultant, I help
And it will be
start
from 9 to 7,
fabrication
we are
and
central factory,
semiconductors.
Thursday.
So I worked on
And it will be a lot of paneling, so it will be for us, for you and for me, we need network, we need connections, yeah. Like, I don't know if I will have
All right, I see you. Good luck.
So let's connect to LinkedIn. And see what I do.
See you around. Our team kind of transferred over, so the last company that I found was
Italian, definitely, yeah, German. Because it's just like, French community
Oh yeah, all kinds of sensors, and a lot of this stuff, you know, you grab components off the shelf, you assemble them, it has everybody's background, and then if you upgrade it, so you might be able there's a lot of stuff there, because, you know, you pay for a wafer. A big round. You can put a million chips on a wafer, and the cost of that wafer divided by a million is the cost of the chip. Right. And so, the more you can use that efficiently, and so miniaturizing stuff makes it cheap. So there are chips that you sell for because there's some small there.
Oh, yeah, because I'm like, yeah, that's my.
I worked in a space station. I worked for Motorola. That was a true R&D, like a startup space, where companies would say, I want to build it, and have it come in with a PowerPoint, and say, these look like this. And then we would help them figure out how to build it. What's the answer?
Yeah. I know you use the word inside the class, but
I'm the technical consultant. And I just have to start companies, like small projects, because I have a physics PhD, so I have a pedigree kind of how the device works. And I'm also, I've done reliability engineering for over a decade, so I'm really good at, you know, listing all the ways that something can break.
Yeah, I'm trying to start.
And you need that because that goes into your scoping for your risk mitigation strategy. So as soon as you have a prototype, you're going down that list and validating, is this really a problem, is that really a problem, and how big of a problem, can you get around that problem?
And I wanted to see more.
Very interesting. We are somewhere in that phase right now. Like we have our initial version out there, but then yeah, we tested it out and we want like a changes in that, and then so I'm talking to some people. I don't know if you know.
So
Here at Snap Factories, they are also looking to basically helping people with automating the documentation of building a device, like a hardware device.
Oh, okay.
So all the
I've heard of them, but I don't know much about them.
yeah, I was just using it to see them and like kind of understand more about the hardware. What you just mentioned also is a key part of that, but we'd love to execute it.
Sure.
Usually it goes pretty well.
Yeah, everyone bounces a question off to another question, that bounces into another question.
Yeah, and really they, like, I had like a list of things that I was curious about, and pretty much
they covered all of it.
Yeah, like the listing, the dealers, that kind of thing, like, yeah.
You have to approve the camera.
So you're here a couple times? So like my
No,
dad
I'm not.
actually working with head of Starlink now to bring Starlink into
It's a great movie.
so he's actually the one who's the
Oh, really?
regulatory side of things for Starlink in
little bit sad, but
in Dubai.
it is a great movie.
What
It
is it?
was, it's a great movie. Make him some soul kitchen.
So who are you trying to reliability technician?
Should explore that.
Oh, cool.
My dad used the beard from here and years.
Yeah.
My dad's physics like from Utah.
Yeah. I'm a UT alum.
My dad's in his sixties, I know you're in your sixties.
Right.
Yeah, so I was in the PMA building, back then it was called RLM, I had to rename it, because the guy they named it after was apparently a racist. And so they had to rename the building.
I was staying there like last year. Yeah,
it's kind of concerning actually. It kind of shows how little the university values the physics department.
That was concerning for me as well.
It was an old building when I went there 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell by the number of
They structure like startups.
Right.
Yeah, I work.
I'm not saying that I don't want you to
If you measure the, if you count the number of people, it's mostly equal to half of them. Like it won't match the ratio of people and then, and also like,
It's
very small.
Yeah.
very small and then
Very
the
small.
whole floor.
And I'm not posting
Obviously,
every
every
hour.
where you go.
I'm posting my devices.
Stay there.
I mean, yeah, initially I did it, I was TA for physics course, but I was a TA for physics course, but yeah, then you had the engineering.
You have to go there.
Brand new, yeah, all these 3D printers everywhere, and you're like,
It feels far apart.
I like your name.
I'm sure.
Stefan. What do you do?
Right now I'm freelancing for a health tech startup. And I don't know computer science and but I went to UT to do it. So yeah, kind of working the health tech policy side things. We are working on a wearable tech for infants and toddlers to reduce infant mortality and in low term and preterm babies. So low weight and preterm.
Chips, microchips, and
so, for example, I have worked with gradient 3D holographic projection without models. there's a company called Leia, as in Princess Leia and R2D2.
They were actually the
They have built such technology. It projects and it's 3D when you look at it. You might see like trade shows where they have like this really realistic looking waterfall and the car drives through it, and it's all virtual.
And your project is just board in the chip.
No, it's just connect the chip.
Just
to fab the chip in a clearance.
Okay, so you build the architecture of the chip.
Yeah, they're ready to expand to us here, so we're
And help them integrate it to where, cause I mean.
Yeah, that's wild.
Well, in this case, they're using an external laser, so it was just a great, it's just a bunch of ridges and circles and grooves, and yeah, it was basically just a bunch of gratings, optical gratings. And they had a way of, in the spacing variant, they had a way of changing the angle of illumination or something like that. I don't know how it worked, okay? It was a spin-off from Hewlett Packard. But it was a lot of gratings, and each of the gratings effectively was
What makes,
and then they had a way of manipulating it to where they could basically create a 3D image. And no matter where you are in the room, you can see it as 3D.
Are they on the market?
They are on the market. They were in a cell phone. It was not a successful cell phone, and so they didn't take off. And they're recovered from that. They're still around, and but they do make things for like trade shows and stuff for glitz and glamour.
Okay, so what do you mean they were a cell phone and it wasn't successful?
A cell phone where you hold it and then animation would pop out of your phone and you see things.
You would see it in 3D. Why was that not successful?
The phone was not great.
So,
they tried to assemble their own phone?
No. They were designed into a phone that was not successful.
But what we do
A small brand that no one's ever heard of.
That you don't have to touch the gloves to put them on.
And, and so they're still around, and, the technology has been at this point, and it's basically ready to scale, so I expect them to scale.
And you made the chip for which device?
So it's a med device.
It's the device that actually creates the 3D.
I actually, my last company was a company, so I actually.
Yeah, that it is a component, it would be a component of the phone, yeah.
And financial data.
And so, I've worked for,
all the surgery centers.
the company here in Austin, not worked for, but I worked with a company here in Austin that does DNA sequencing, Thermo Fisher, right? You remember Ion Torrent? Okay, Ion Torrent is a DNA sequencing platform.
Sorry, so
They
we
literally are taking
a
camera, a camera chip, and you're going to go in the camera or your cell phone or something, you're going to take a camera chip, and they attach a metal test tube, nanoscale metal test tube to 1 of the pixels. And then when there's a pH change, it shows up.
I love how you said it, Ari, although I don't understand none of this pixel to.
They're literally measuring the charge inside this tiny little test tube when they make a chemical reaction. And so they can do this for the sequence of they're flowing sequence of some chemicals across it, the pH changes, and they say, oh, we have that nucleotide.
the subject matter.
We have this nucleotide. And they can do that in parallel because they have megapixel cameras where they basically attach little tiny test tubes to each one. And it makes it like a little microscopic volume, sample volume that's isolated from the bulk. And so, because you have this confined solution, you can do chemical reactions and you can actually monitor it in real time. So, and then bio nanogenomics, They do long chain, it's called DNA mapping. They're basically barcoding DNA, so they have a portion of the chip that untangles the DNA, linearizes it, sticks it in a millimeter long, 40 nanometer cross section channel, so that the DNA is straight. And it can't wiggle, can't coil back up because it's in this little, it's in this straw.
Okay.
And then they have ways of attaching fluorophores to certain sequences, and then they just hit it with a UV laser and it fluoresces, and they get a barcode.
Oh, man.
And so combining the DNA mapping, which gives you the large scale, long chain, uncut DNA information. So they're really good at being able to tell if there's duplicates, if it's a reversal, if it's translocated, if it's on the wrong chromosome, if you have multiple copies, if you're missing copies, and all of those are disease markers because those are all changing the probability that the protein gets transcribed. And so, so all that large scale information is a stronger indicator of diseases in many cases, as opposed to like the change of the single nucleotide, which can deform the protein that's made, but there are fewer diseases associated with that. And you can combine the two, do de novo assemblies, and start from scratch, and it's total DNA, very high accuracy, 24 hours.
Are they gonna make us live 200 years?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we're all here.
I'm curious,
We're all helping each other.
I've done night vision goggles, so it's got elements to take, infrared and convert it into an electrical signal.
What are you doing now?
Right now, not much.
For sure. Yeah.
Not much. It's ever since the interest rates went up, money dried up, a lot of startup companies are on hold. I have a contract, I have a retainer. I've had the contract since February. I've had the retainer since March. And I can't stop. I start a project on retainer.
Okay.
And then I bill against that until it's completed, then we reload it. And then if they get big enough, then, we can do net 30 or something like that, where I just kind of bill them for hours afterwards. But I always start a relationship with a retainer, because there's always startup costs that are just guaranteed. And I can't go there and put a whole lot of effort into something and then they don't pay me, right? Especially on
that makes sense.
That was my question, like, so what's the interest you had, like, I'll let you take that.
No.
Great.
So I was just trying to map out that, when you're coming to capital factory, so are you meet startups?
I'm looking for people who might need help.
Awesome, great, yeah, I mean, like, that's.
And I do this, I want to do this global, and I'm bilingual, so I can do this for South America too. And, it's just hard to find your customer when they're all in stealth mode.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you find these people, right? And there's a timing problem too, because, once they've already kind of gotten started, once they've.
Yeah, to undo that project to
it's like you want to catch them early, at the beginning of the project. And there's an important scoping phase, and there's a really important choosing your foundry partner phase, which is sort of like matchmaking and making sure that you ask the investors for enough money to complete the project. And so, there's usually a learning curve where, I get onboarded and I'm like, well, where is your failure mode and effect analysis? Where's that spreadsheet that tells me all of the ways that it's gonna fail? And what are we doing about each one of these, And it's like, well, we haven't put that together yet. It's like,
as a consultant as well.
yeah, and it's like, you need to start with that because your scope of effort comes rolling right out of your wrist.
And that's how you introduce himself, like a consultant for.
Yeah.
That's how it's.
So.
Great learning about like the work that you do and then you.
Yeah.
but in my mind, I'm thinking that maybe I can arrange a conversation with my startup founder and then
Sure.
see where we are and then learn what we need to do more.
Yeah.
Can you be in
again.
your
Yeah, I'll let you know
line
next time I'm in San Antonio.
and you see-
I'll let you know. I come down there all the time. There's a lot of medical.
I'm not kidding, seriously.
Yeah,
I'm
let me know if you're
mentors.
looking for some contacts.
You're looking for mentorship, or you?
No, I don't want, no, I can't be mentor for something.
I would love it, yeah. Anything
Oh,
else.
yeah.
No.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Somebody listening? Okay, sounds good. I'll ask around. Yeah, I'll see who we're connected with mutually on
From
LinkedIn.
management
Yeah,
perspective.
alright, thank you, man, I really appreciate it, yeah. Okay,
But
Ethan.
some specifications
Bye.
that we
Thank you, Adam.
see,
Yeah,
say
thanks,
la
man.
la la,
It was great
so
seeing you.
I need some
Yeah,
mentorship.
bye, guys.
See ya,
It
Adam.
was great meeting you guys.
So-
Great meeting you.
I haven't met too
Great
many
podcast.
yet. But
Can
there's
you
always.
do this?
I can help.
I said, how are you doing?
All kinds of.
Did you like the event?
Oh yeah, it was pretty cool. I came in late, but I went to the first floor, and then like as in the ground floor, and then there was another event happening on AI. I thought that's where we will meet for the Met startup event, and then
Yeah, that's
and
where the
then-
last one was, right?
Sorry?
You talking about the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
one?
the last one where Lupita came in, right?
Yeah.
Do you need help with any of these?
No, I think you're good.
I think all of these look fine. All these
Everybody
look-
grabbed all their stuff, right? There's no like straggling personal items.
I can't see anything here.
Looks like we're good.
Yeah, you're also like heading up, or?
I mean, I closed the event space.
Okay,
so-
cool. Oh wow, cool. Yeah, that's cool. Well, alright man, I'll see you for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be there. Okay.
Have
I'll
a
see
good
you.
one. Yeah. Actually, I'll wait for you to close out and just have a brief conversation. Yeah. I'll wait for you to close out the room and then I can have a brief conversation.
Oh. Yeah. I think it should be good.
You can do the close out?
No, I don't know.
Okay, cool.
It looks fine. I mean, I trust you guys. Yeah, it's fine. I usually just come in here to get the parking slips, but I got them from you, so we're chilling. So, is that what?
How have you been recently?
Dude, tired as fuck. Tired.